So we need to talk about gambling in Star Trek Online. They just released another gambling ship today, the Borg Assimilator, and it looks like a neat ship, but I made a decision a long time ago that I wasn't going to review any gambling exclusive ships. So you're not going to see a review of it from me until it's either available as an event campaign reward or they put it into a MUD's market bundle. However, this does seem like a great opportunity to take a look at the numbers. Now, if we look at the market value of a master key, we'll see they're going for roughly 12 million energy credits. However, what is the market value for a ship that you can win with those master keys? Let's take a look at that newest ship that just came out. The Borg Ass. That's right, the Borg Ass. Okay. That's selling for basically 1.5 billion energy credits. Now, if you do the math on that, you'll see that it comes out to roughly the equivalent value of 125 lockbox keys. If I had 125 lockbox keys right now, I could sell them on the exchange, get my 1.5 billion energy credits, and then buy the Borg Assimilator Dreadnought Cruiser. However, I do have two options available to me in this hypothetical. One option is to sell them and buy the ship, but the other option is to open lockboxes to try and win the ship. So, what are my odds? Well, it turns out a few months back, Spencer did an experiment over on Tribble and collected some statistics. You do get a pity bonus after about 300 boxes opened, but we're talking about 125, so we're going to stick with the statistics he found for the first 300, which is 1 in 350 chance. Now, at a 1 in 350 chance, if you were to open 125 boxes, you get, drumroll please, 30% chance to win the ship. That's right. So now we have to ask ourselves, what kind of a person has a whole bunch of lockbox keys, they open enough lockboxes to win a ship, the Borg Assimilator Dreadnought Cruiser, and then instead of keeping it for themselves, they post it on the exchange for the equivalent value of a 30% chance to win the thing that they're selling. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, it is true that you get other things for opening lockboxes than just a ship. You get Lobby, and you also get a bunch of other stuff like traits and kit frames and all kinds of other junk. But the vast majority of that is worth far less than the value of a single lockbox key. And the few items that are worth more than one, you're not going to get very often because they don't have a great odds of dropping either. If the ship is only worth 30% of the lockboxes needed to buy it, and the stuff that you get in addition is worth far less than 70% of the value of a ship, then why would anyone do this? Why would anyone sell one of these ships on the exchange unless they happen to get really lucky and open it in their first few boxes? But in that case, why were they opening lock boxes to begin with if they didn't want to keep the ship? Well, if it isn't obvious by now, the answer is simple. It's gambling addicts. And we have other evidence for that as well. Lobby's ships have consistently been some of the cheapest gambling ships you can get, even before the event campaigns and the MUD's market bundles diminished their value. They haven't released a new one since 2020, but that doesn't change the fact that they have always been some of the cheapest ships. Now, if you do a little bit more math, you'll see that you get on average about 5 Lobby crystals per lockbox opened. What does this mean in practice? It means that if you open 219 lockboxes, which Spencer found in his statistical testing to be the average number you'd need to open in order to win a ship, you'll get just about enough Lobby to buy a Lobby ship from the Lobby store. So, if they cost roughly the same amount as the lockbox ships, you would expect them to sell for roughly the same price on the exchange. But they don't, and they never have. That's weird, isn't it? Here's another thing that's weird. Go ahead and look at this year's winter event. The buyout is not in Zen. It's in Lobby. 1,000 Lobby, which is very expensive to get. Who in the world has 1,000 Lobby to spend on buying out an event like this? Well, here's the thing. If you're the kind of compulsive gambler who opens thousands upon thousands of lockboxes, you don't have anything to spend your Lobby on. They haven't released a new Lobby ship since 2020. And once you've bought in all of the few odds and end consoles for your alts, there's really nothing else to spend it on. And so they have to try and claw it back through stuff like this. The evidence is overwhelming. Gambling addicts are a big deal in Star Trek Online. When I made my Rethinking Free-to-Play video, I may have made the range a little bit too high for the dolphins, but I certainly didn't make it too high for the whales. There are people out there who are so addicted to gambling that spend so much money on the game that they open lockbox ship after lockbox ship after lockbox ship, and in that situation, they find it acceptable to sell it for 30% of its value just so they can buy more keys to keep gambling. And that's where we have to look at the next part of this. Who's buying these lockbox keys? If they're so overpriced compared to the value of a ship, then who's buying them? Because there are two components to play with here. One argument you could make is that the ships are simply underpriced. After all, if we take a look here, they're at the maximum market value. You can't post anything on the exchange for more than 1.5 billion energy credits. And perhaps if they raise the cap, these ships would be more expensive. Except there is a counter argument to that. They aren't all 1.5 billion. A couple of people, like these two, are undercutting the market price. So clearly, that isn't really a big issue. People are willing to sell it for even less than 1.5 billion energy credits. The only other variable we have to play with is the cost of the keys themselves. So if the ships aren't undervalued, that must mean the keys are overvalued. But if they're overvalued compared to what they allow you to obtain, then what is the secret hidden value of a lockbox key that makes it worth it to people to buy them? It's the gambling. You have to have the keys in order to gambling, and a gambling addict will get the keys that they need in order to keep gambling, even if they have to pay a huge premium for it on the exchange, or even if they have to sell a lockbox ship for 30% of its value just so they can keep gambling. I hope all this makes sense, and I hope it's something that you'll consider in the future whenever discussions about whales and gambling comes up in Star Trek Online. I'm not here to shame the gamblers or tell them not to gamble. It's the most effective business model that people have found for video games in the current day that we live in 2023. So of course they're going to do it. They're not going to switch to a less profitable model. And clearly there are people out there who are willing to spend this kind of money. The concern that I have is that some of these people are not doing it. So the next time you sell a bunch of lockbox keys to buy a ship, just remember, you're getting it at a considerable discount, because everyone selling you one of these ships is doing it at a huge loss in order to further fuel their gambling. Well, I hope that one wasn't too much of a downer. Thank you for joining me for this Trekmas episode. Feel free to like and subscribe so you can see more of my content in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.